Hello, we're here at CWU headquarters in Wimbledon, where I've come to talk to Deputy General Secretary Dave Ward about the current postal dispute. Hello Dave, thanks for joining us. Tell me, where are you at with the talks? What point are you?
Well, we've just appointed the chair of the independent process, so it's important people recognise that we've now got an independent process overseeing the talks as we move forward. A guy called Roger Paul, who's had a lot of experience in bringing parties together. His most recent job was he was the chair of the Parades Commission in Northern Ireland, so he understands how difficult it is to bring parties like Royal Mail and CWU together. And we met Roger last week and we set out a structure for the talks going forward. We're hopeful that we can bring it to a conclusion with Roger's and ACAS support before Christmas. You
like his energy, don't you? Because he's already set you some homework. He's hit the ground running,
That's right,
hasn't he?
Yeah. The guy phoned me up at the weekend actually on Saturday. He set us some homework last Thursday. We did that on Friday, and that was about setting out the structure of the talks, making sure that we do hit these time frames. And on Saturday morning, he actually phoned both myself and the senior Royal Mail manager in charge of the talks, the HR director, Dal Haddon, and was actually saying that he wanted us to put a bit more effort into getting the pace of these talks moving forward. So yeah, we're keen to work with Roger. I think he will bring a new dynamic to it. I think it's important as well that we do have an independent party overseeing these talks. I mean, it was the union that's called for the independent party. Frankly, we got fed up with Royal Mail and the way that they treat negotiations. And I do think it's really, really important that we have an independent process now where you can examine both sides' behaviour under that process, but we don't feel we've got anything to hide. I think Royal Mail probably have.
And you want these talks to really get going before Christmas. Christmas is quite a point, isn't it? I mean, it's an emotional point at which you could slow up to, or you could try and get something sorted before you hit it.
Yeah, it's strange how Christmas has played such a key feature in people's thoughts at the moment about whether we've got a decent agreement or whether we've, as some people will always say, you've sold out and all that sort of stuff.
Do you think it's strange? Isn't Christmas all about post?
No, of course it is. But what I'm saying is that I remember that when we came out the TUC, when we announced that we had the agreement, clearly Royal Mail wanted to give a message to customers that they can have some confidence that there's not going to be any strikes over the Christmas period. But in actual fact, they didn't position the agreement correctly. I mean, the agreement doesn't say that there's going to be a strike-free Christmas. What it says is that providing we deliver the terms of the deal, there'll be a strike-free Christmas.
And are you concerned that lots of people aren't getting that message?
Yeah, I think people might have thought that we suddenly handed over a blank cheque to Royal Mail so that they can get through Christmas and at the end of Christmas just return to their normal ways. That's not what the agreement says. There's a fortnightly review, formal review. We've got the first of those reviews on Thursday the 26th of November, and they're real key tests for the company to overcome. Plus we've also signed into making sure that we make significant progress by December. And I have to say, if Royal Mail do revert to type, despite the support of the independent process, ACAS and the independent chair, then if they carry on as they were previously, then we will, if necessary, call further strike action.
Now, you're always saying how your members really don't want to strike and they don't want to strike over Christmas. You feel passionately about that, don't you? You think that lots of people don't quite get that. They think that lots of members do want to be out on strike.
Look, our members don't want to strike at any time. I always say to our representatives, striking is a means to an end, it's not the objective. We do have a tradition in the CWU of standing up for ourselves, and we do use strike action at times, but it's always as a last resort. I mean, we don't want to be in that position, and I would hope that our members understand that. I don't personally think that our members want to be on strike over Christmas. They know what Christmas means to them, to their families, and they obviously want to deliver a good service over the Christmas period. So it's not our aim to be on strike, it's our aim to reach an agreement and to do that as quickly as possible.
How much of an agreement do you think you'll reach before Christmas? Because you won't sort the whole thing out before then, will you?
No, I mean the scale of change that postal workers are facing is huge. I've said consistently that it's change on a scale that no other UK industry is currently facing. I think it's the sort of change that comes along probably once every 50 or 60 years across the whole of British industry. I mean, you're looking at new automation coming in that's going to transform the delivery job. You're looking at a completely redesigned mail centre network, and our distribution drivers will be part of that as well. So to get an agreement that actually deals with all of those problems in the detail that's necessary isn't going to be easy between now and Christmas. That's why the interim agreement was necessary, because we knew we couldn't possibly finish the whole deal without some kind of period of calm. So that's why, you know, we have to get knuckled down now, basically, using the independent chair to keep us on track to try and reach an agreement before Christmas.
So you say change on a massive scale. It is change that you accept has to come. Modernisation has to come, doesn't it?
There's no doubt that if you examine all the issues that this industry is facing, if you consider the external issues, the pension deficit, which is said to be the biggest in Western Europe, we believe that's going to be something around £10 billion. And we've got to find a solution to that problem. We need government intervention to deal with that. If you look at competition, which unfortunately the government introduced earlier than the rest of Europe in a way that hasn't helped the company, if you look at the fact that there's a changing world of communications, and if you add into that mechanisation on a scale that we've never seen before, then any one of those issues in their own would have been a major challenge for us as a union, the workforce. But we're having to deal with those things all at the same time. So it is very difficult, and we do believe change is necessary. We've never hidden that from the members. We've always said to the members that change is necessary. The debate really is that change going to be in their interests, in their long-term interests, and in the customer's interests? Our view up to this point has been that Royal Mail have been purely focused on basically the company's position, how the company is seen by the government, and returning a profit on a commercial loan that they got from the government, rather than actually trying to align the interests of customers, the workforce and the company as a whole.
Some people will have to lose their jobs, won't they, with modernisation?
Well, there will be job losses. Everybody, I think every member knows that there's going to be further job losses. Two things drive job losses, basically. One, if you bring in automation that takes away work that was previously done manually, then that's going to impact on people's jobs.
And you're not trying to stop that? That's just inevitable?
No, we've never, this union has never ever attempted to stop machinery coming in. Nobody can. It's about how you deal with that, the impact it has on our members' jobs. And there are structures within that if we get the right agreement, we can minimise the amount of jobs. Obviously, we want to make sure that jobs only go by voluntary redundancy. And it's important that the company signal up front that they can continue to afford voluntary redundancy right across the whole of the transformation period.
This whole thing about communication, signalling up front, as you say, tone is everything, isn't it? Isn't that an issue you have with Royal Mail, that the tone of their changes and the workforce changing is a big problem? Don't bully us, don't tell us what to do, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think Royal Mail's management need modernising. I mean, one of the things here that I've consistently said is that if you're really going to modernise this industry, one of the key things that needs to be modernised is the way that managers actually behave in the business. And that comes from the top of the business. I mean, there's no doubt in our mind that since the people like Adam Crozier came in and Alan Leighton, that there's been a change in the way that management treat our members. And I think people have seen through that stuff now. You know, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride. One week it's a crisis, the next week we're doing fantastically well. The truth is we've been somewhere in between the two positions. So the tone is right, and what we want to do is work with Royal Mail. I think they've had a fundamental problem about working with a trade union.
Why?
Because I don't think they're used to it. I think they're people who have come in from the private sector. I mean, there's a lot of debate, obviously, about privatisation, but I suppose the truth is we don't want privatisation, but we have ended up with managers from the private sector who bring a lot of those ideas into what is basically a public service still.
Do you think, though, that they might have things to show you? Aren't there good things that they may bring with them?
Well, there's no doubt that, I mean, I'm sure there's certain things that they would do. I mean, Alan Leighton, I remember at one point, did stand up to the government. We'd like to see the management in Royal Mail standing up to the government now. I mean, that's lacking in terms of the pension issues. They should be working with the union to solve that problem. They should be being honest with the members and recognising that the only way you can solve that problem is through government intervention. So, you know, I'm sure there's some things that they can do are positive, but I have to say that there's a real fundamental flaw in the attitude of managers.
Is it a lack of respect? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think it's a lack of understanding of the issues and the workload of our members. I mean, one of the things that was very difficult during the dispute was Royal Mail managers constantly saying that basically postal workers are lazy. You know, they don't work to time, without giving people the truthful situation, which is that our members come in before they start, they forgo their breaks, They use their private vehicles when they shouldn't. And I think that would have been a more honest way of dealing with that problem. Instead, they almost attacked the workforce. And I do think that they put enormous pressure on local managers. It's all about local budgets that are unrealistic, that bear no relation to people's workload. So they're the type of things that under the terms of the agreement we're looking for that we're going to change.
Yeah, when that kind of thing happens and bad feeling is all around, how realistic is it that you'll end up with an agreement that both sides will be satisfied with, do you think?
I don't think there's any possibility of trust being built overnight, and just purely through where we've been and how bitter this dispute has been in lots of places across the country. And I don't think you're going to get a culture change happen overnight. It's going to be a gradual thing. But it's important that we try to build trust now with the employer. And that what builds that trust is whether or not they stick to the terms of the agreements that we've reached. Do
you have a feeling of faith in the process? You've asked them to take part in this. Are you going to give them a chance to, fulfil their side of things?
Well, I think we need to make sure that we combine both a faith in the process, in the independent nature of the process, which we've asked for as a trade union, and was really important that we exposed, if you like, some of Royal Mail's behaviour, which you can't always do in the media, but you can through an independent process supported by ACAS. I think it's important that we give that process a chance to bed in, but at the same time we're up against time frames here that we need to make rapid progress. And to be honest with you, we're conscious of the Christmas situation. We know that there are a number of our members who are probably thinking that Royal Mail are just going to see this through to Christmas and they're going to revert to type. Well, we're not going to allow that to happen.
Now, while you've got their support, it's easier then for you to do your job. What happens if you get to a stage where this dispute drags on and on and on, and the support of your own members begins to get confused, say? What are you going to do then? How much more difficult will it be for you?
Well, I think there is some truth in saying that probably some of our members are in that place already, because I don't think that people always see the detail of what's going on in negotiations.
And there is a lot of detail,
yeah, they don't see the future so much, they see where they are at the moment. I think one of the things that I would say to our members is that we can't lose sight, whatever the problems are at the moment in your local offices, we cannot lose sight of how big the changes that we're dealing with in the future. And it's absolutely crucial that we get that change right. And they should stick with the union. Despite how many strikes we've had in the past, we've done that because we've stood up for them, not because we just want to go on strike. And I think we have had an impact on management, and we will continue to do that. And we will end up, I'm very confident that we'll end up getting a good agreement. But there might be, I suppose the best way to position this is that we're not at the end of the dispute. We never were. The interim agreement we knew was necessary, a period of calm, if you can get a period of calm in Royal Mail. But we have to stick together through to the end of this. If we can bring that to a conclusion before Christmas, great. If it goes on after Christmas, well, so be it. But it's important to recognise that the agreement doesn't just deal with change leading up to Christmas. It locks Royal Mail into a process where they're now compelled to agree change, including local revisions in the future for 2010. So we've locked them into a very tight process here that I think is in our interests.
Are you feeling optimistic?
I'm always optimistic. I do believe that one of the important things when you're a leader, if you like, in a trade union, is that you've got to be seen to be being optimistic, not just because you are, but you do have to get out there and you do have to say to people, look, we can solve these problems. They are big problems. I'd just like our members to recognise how big, again, the scale of changes that we're dealing with. But I am optimistic we'll get an agreement. This union gets good agreements. We've got a history of that, and people need to remember where we've come from to where we end up. And I do believe that we'll be able to deal with change in a way that people will see was a very good agreement, albeit some of those changes are not going to be very popular with our members.
Dave Ward, thank you very much for giving us some of your time.
All right.
Better get back to ACAS now.
I'm heading there straight away, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.